Let's see how to define functions in Python. So here's the syntax. You say def space, then the function name, then parentheses, then however many input variables you want. Here I'm giving it one input variable. 0 would also be an option. And then whatever you want to define the function should be indented. And in this case, it'll be a very simple function, all fits on just one line. Let's return x squared minus 5. And then if I try f of 7, for example, I get 7 squared minus 5. So I get 44 as the return value. And a common beginning programmer mistake is to put a print here. And that would look similar. So for example, let me show you the difference. Say I do g of x, and then I say print x squared minus 5. Okay, and then I do g of 7. Looks identical in this sense, but let me show you the difference. If I say, for example, y equals f of 7, okay, good. If I say z equals g of 7, okay, good. But there's sort of a hint that something went wrong, because notice how we're still seeing this number 44 here. And so if I look at y, okay, that has the value I wanted to assign, 44. Okay, but if I look at z, okay, and nothing shows up. If I look at z plus 2, okay, which I wanted to be 46, I get unsupported operand type for addition. You can't add together none type and an integer. And so the problem with this is that when I'm saying print, what that's doing is it's immediately printing the value. So that's why this 44 showed up here. Okay, it immediately printed the value as soon as it went through the definition of this g of 7. And as far as what does a print statement return? I mean, doesn't return anything. Or a better way for me to say that is, because I did not use a return statement inside of this function, nothing is getting returned by this function. So more specifically, the thing that's getting returned by this, okay, if I check what's the type of z, okay, which was the one that I defined up here using the incorrect function definition, that is this none type object. So be careful not to use print. If you just quickly evaluate, it might look like it's working correctly, but if you try to assign and you've used a print command, it's not going to work. Okay, just like we saw here when we tried to assign g of 7 to the variable name z, maybe it half looked like it worked, but it did not work. Z had no value. Here, its value was this none type value. And let me just show you an example with maybe a little more complicated of a definition. Let's say def, how about check? And let's say it takes 2 inputs, and let's define z to be x plus 2 times y. Okay, and then let's say, so notice how this is indented the same amount. So now let's say if z is bigger than 10, let's return z. And then let's do an else if condition, so elif. So elif z is greater than 5. Okay, let's return 2 times z. And then let's have an else condition. And then let's return the string, choose bigger numbers. Okay, and let's check. So we do check to 1. And so what is this going to do? It's going to set x to be 2 temporarily, y to be 1. Then it's going to set z to be 2 plus 2, so z will be 4. This condition is false, so we skip this part. This condition, it's still false, so we skip this part. And we go down to the else condition. Okay, and so this choose bigger numbers is going to be the result. If I try check of 2, 2, then in this case, z was 6. So this condition was false. This condition was true. So it returned 2 times 6. It returned this 12. And a second ago, I said it'll set x equal to 2, and then maybe I said temporarily. Let me just try to convince you that that's right. If I check what is x, get this x is not defined. If I checked y, probably y would be defined, but not for any good reason, just because I defined it up here when we were working with the previous function f. Okay, but in terms of this one, y would still not be. When I input, for example, 2 here, that locally changes the definition of y, but it doesn't change it outside of the function. Okay, so if I check y, I get this same 44 that we had up above. Okay, so that was just a quick introduction to functions in Python. We'll later see a way to write this kind of short function here using what's called a lambda function. So just know that in the long run, you'll probably use function definitions like we saw in this video for a complicated function like this check, but you probably will not use it for a simple function like this f version. So just to show you, let me call it, how about f2? And then what was the definition up here? It was x squared minus 2. This is just a preview. You would say this equals lambda. You can call it anything you want. Let's call it, how about w? Okay, and then we'll return w squared minus 5. Okay, and then if I do f2 of 10, I get 100 squared minus 5. So that's just a quick preview of lambda functions. Okay, thanks for watching.